Oh, I didn't see you there. Alright, so this is me answering the questions. For the Kickstarter shits, just, cut it however you want. I'll try to give you some shit that you can actually use. Intro clip, I can give you that. This is Xabin. He did stuff. Alright, so I actually was looking at the forum forums, believe it or not. What was the first MMO you played? The first MMO I played was called Anarchy Online, and that was about 10 years ago now. It had some territory control stuff in it. I mean, you can look it up. Something I did before I played what we know as MMOs now was called MUD or a mush, which is a text-based persistent multiplayer world. Text-based internet. I mean, not really much to say. It was all, you imagine what an MMO is, but people have better imaginations, not as many game mechanics, and it's all text-based. So, yeah, it's a lot like FOM. What do you think is missing in today's MMOs? I don't really know what people think is missing in today's MMOs so much as what has never really been in modern MMOs for the most part, which would be, meaningful actions that aren't like with predefined consequences. And that's something I think that FOM really shines in, is that the consequences are real and unpredictable. You can't go look at some FAQ somewhere and find out what doing X is gonna do to your reputation or to your faction or anything. You actually just have to go out and do it. It's a very organic experience that way. It relies upon other players. It's not so much what the game mechanics have determined that you will do and you will not. What do you think is going to happen? Why don't we find out? What makes Face of Mankind unique in your eyes? All in all, it's a very, unique game. Out of all the things that make FOM unique, I would say the biggest thing is the extent to which it's a player-driven game. You can't really look at a lot of examples in the modern, MMO world that really hold a candle to it in that respect. And even the ones that do, it's in a very arbitrary kind of like, this can only go so wrong kind of a way. Whereas in FOM, you might damn near set the whole universe on fire. You just don't know. People laud games, especially like Eve, for the degree of player control, but they would never let things get out of hand the way they can in FOM, because they're not really running that kind of an operation. It's not a social experiment over there. They're running a business. Okay, I didn't mean to be insulting. What existing games would you compare FOM to? It's hard to really compare FOM to any existing games, but if you had to, the similarities mechanically with PlanetSide 2 are pretty obvious, because it's one of the few MMO FPSs that exists right now. You could make an argument for Eve because of the complexity of the economy, and because the economy is completely player-driven like it is in FOM, and how important it is. It's central in the same sense. But in both of these cases, you don't really get the same sense that you're the end-all be-all like you do in FOM. Like in PlanetSide 2, you can like have your little group of dudes, but your group of dudes are ultimately a part of what? Some big, huge thing that's controlled by the people who run the game that you have no say over. In FOM, your faction, let's put it in FOM terms, is actually the base unit. Your group is the group. All of the consequences are based on what you do, and there's no real authority higher than you. Even if there is, it's completely up to you whether it's above you or not. There's been lots of civil wars, and okay, I can't really go with that because then I have to explain what FTC was and all that shit. I don't know about the faction thing. That's just between you and me. What is your favorite thing about Face of Mankind? Bitches, I guess, trolling. My favorite thing about Face of Mankind is being James Xabin, because I'm the greatest player of all time, and it's just been proven time and again. Every time I come back into the game, I leave more than was there when I left, And really just, the hero worship and all the YouTube views and stuff are cool, but mainly it's just like knowing how fucking badass I am. That's my favorite thing about Face of Mankind is that it's always essentially been about interactions between the players, and what that boils down to is that it's a game where when a player wants to do something, they can try to do it. The bottom line is that in FOM, you can try to do anything you want. Whether you'll succeed or not, that's a different question, but you at least have the chance to say, like, I think this would be a cool thing to try, and you can just do it. There's no reason that you can't. It's about whatever the players want to do something in the world that they want to see happen. It's kind of like Billy Madison. I wanted to see a blue duck, so I drew a blue duck. That's basically FOM. Alright, well, when we cut all these together, you might get some. Describe the aspect of player control in Face of Mankind. Player control essentially is the building block upon which everything else is built in Face of Mankind. We were given a lore around 2006, but everything that's been done since then and built onto that lore is based on what players have done in the game. So, I mean, you look through everything, the whole history of it, which really is another thing that sets FOM apart. There is a sense of history, that things have been accomplished, that other players have come before you and done things. You don't get that a lot in other games. When you look at it, what the players have done is far more rich and intricate than any one person could have written about anyway. I mean, you look at stuff like the rise and fall of the Second Senate, open beta, the coup, GOR, Nation of Shadows, Colonial Senate, all of the ways that the different wars played out. It's like reading Romance of the Three Kingdoms. Describe the best experience you ever had in Face of Mankind. The best experience I ever had in Face of Mankind is when I asked this dude for a sandwich and it started like a galactic war. It ultimately ended with a bunch of people being angry and court-martialed, and then that led to another war when they were just about to take over the whole galaxy, the Battle of Aurelia. The Battle of Aurelia is one of the great battles, if not the most pivotal battle in the history of FOM. Everyone who was there knows what I'm talking about. Somehow, through defensive pact, it was the Guardians of Mankind's colony. I won't get into all the details, but basically there was only one colony left that was not taken over by this alliance. The Battle of Aurelia consisted of every faction, without exception, in the Dominion. All the major cells of the mercenaries, everything, everyone was fighting over this one colony. And the underdogs won. The guys that were winning and taking over the entire galaxy and had one more planet to take over before they had the entire star map, Earth included, lost. And that was a turning point in the entire war, because within a week, we'd taken almost everything back, and it was over. That battle was the most incredible thing I've ever seen in FOM, and it just doesn't happen a lot in any game that you have something that's that significant. So ultimately, it was asking Abdul for a sandwich that led to the greatest moment in FOM history, so you're welcome. Do you remember your first day in Face of Mankind and what happened? My first day, early 07, it was still cold outside. I don't remember the date. It was still in the 2300s in game years. Started downloading the client. I read about it, and that's what sold me on it, was reading. I didn't really know anyone who had played other than like one person who played in beta. I was kind of burned out on the typical, fucking every MMO is the same beep. So I tried FOM and, finally got the client, patched it up. I logged in late. I joined the LED, which was a horrible mistake. Just didn't fit my playstyle at all. I think I remember thinking the trench coat was cool. I don't know. I didn't know what I was doing. I just made a character and logged in. I get in the game pretty late. It was not, the peak time. My commanding officer was Arutha Murtaugh. Put up to Arutha. The first thing that happened was he gave me 10, it wasn't Biff, he gave me 10 poly-E's, one of the performance-enhancing drugs in the game, which are illegal, and told me not to tell anyone he gave me them. And so that was the first lesson I learned about FOM and the LED. Here's these drugs, don't tell anyone I gave you them. I went to Manhattan to, go patrol and shit with my, QL1 Zanny. Golden Killer, he actually gave me a gun. He gave me, an RGI. That gun was the balls in those days. And advised me that I should be walking around with at least a helmet. And I was like, why do I need a helmet on? Because you're going to get shot in the head. And then someone else said, oh, he's new. He said, yeah, that'll protect him for about an hour. And it wasn't even an hour until the first time I got shot in the head. And that was my first clone. After cloning, I started wearing a helmet everywhere, eventually started wearing full armor everywhere. But the most important thing is that I perma'd and joined GOM the next day. It's my favorite faction in any game I've ever played. I can't even imagine FOM without GOM. Message. How can the player shape the world in the face of mankind? Shape it in the face. The player shapes face of mankind in every way. There's not really a whole lot for anyone to do other than lubricate this social experiment we've all been involved in. You really can't understate how important the players have been over the years. Without a lot of remarkable players, including myself, but seriously, without a lot of really remarkable people, we probably wouldn't even be having this discussion today. Well, FOM never would have came back in the first place. The whole thing is player control. That's it. People fighting, politics, role play, trolling. I've never seen anything like it in my life, and I don't think I ever will. If, that doesn't sell you nothing, well. Yep.